Hi all, a new day and new stories from Ocean Story. Just listen to this story. I married my new husband 4 years ago. My son Maverick, who is 11 years old, lives with me. Now the family is very friendly. Maverick is delighted with his stepfather because his dad was not so cool. A few words about Maverick's father. My ex-husband Nicholas also has custody of our son Maverick. We got divorced 8 years ago because Nicholas started drinking a lot, and it was unbearable to live with him. Over time, Nicholas stopped drinking so much, so he was able to find a wife and have 2 children with her. About once a week, Nicholas can take my son to his place because he is now in an adequate condition and everything is fine. A week ago, when Maverick came back from his dad, Maverick said that he did not want to go to him anymore. I didn't understand why he behaved like that. So one day later, I went to Nicholas to find out why. To my surprise, there was nothing wrong with their family. Everyone was behaving appropriately, and there were no signs of alcohol. My husband was sitting with Maverick and trying to find out why he didn't want to go to his father. Maverick said that he did not feel comfortable being there alone. He feels very uncomfortable. When I got home, my husband told me about the conversation with Maverick. I was surprised by my son's behavior because it had never happened before. During dinner, I was able to ask Maverick a little bit about what was going on. My husband and I had known before that Maverick's stepmother did not like him very much because she loves only her children, and Maverick is just a parasite for her. But there were never any conflicts between them. I thought so until this dinner, when Maverick was at his dad's house. Mostly he spent time with Nicholas, only in the evening when he came home from work. Until then, Maverick spent time with my ex-husband's stepchildren. My ex-husband's wife was always doing her own thing. She didn't care about the children at all, so Nicholas's children knew no bounds. When it came to interacting with Maverick, they would often go to the local lake when they were out for a walk. My ex's children teased my son, Maverick, all the time. They would joke that a big fish would show up and take Maverick underwater. The kids also made fun of my son's sneakers, saying they were taken off some dead person and put on him. Maverick kept telling his dad Nicholas about it, but he didn't react to what was happening. He said they were just kids and they were joking. I was furious with my ex. At the same moment, I called that asshole and started asking him everything. Nicholas made excuses saying that I shouldn't take it so seriously. Kids don't want to hurt Maverick. It's a way to express love. I contradicted him and said, I'm going to show love too, so I'm going to go and change the custody arrangements. You will no longer take my boy to your home. I will not allow Maverick to be abused. You and your new wife don't care about children. I hung up the phone and was in a strong tear. I think I did the right thing. The next day, my husband and I went and changed the custody arrangements. Now Maverick can be with his dad Nicholas, only in our house. He doesn't have to go to his dad's house at least once a month. How can you be such an idiot? Alice, so your ex Nicholas knew that his son had some difficulties with his half-brothers, but he did nothing. Nicholas did not try to improve the situation, to tell the children that they should be friends, not offend each other. Did Nicholas just ignore the problem, thinking that everything would resolve itself? In my opinion, he deserves the prize for the worst father. Does he really not care about the relationship between his own children? If this is true, Nicholas cannot have custody of Maverick. If he has a new family and children now, let him take care of them and raise them properly. And I can't say anything about his estranged wife at all. If Nicholas has a minimal excuse, that he is at work some of the time and can't sit with the kids, then his wife has this opportunity. What does she do anyway? If her main role as a mother is to raise her children properly, I'm sorry that your ex's children are not being brought up. When they grow up, their lives will be chaos and a mess. Madeline, why didn't you think to ask your son about the situation in your ex's family before? I'm very sure that the children have bullied your son before. It's just that their bullying didn't hurt your son as much. Children who allow themselves to be treated rudely will become a big problem for their parents in the future. My brother never respected the people around him. His parents did not become an authority for him, so he did whatever he wanted. Now my brother is in prison. Cora, how can your husband justify bullying? If someone is bullying people, they should be held accountable. Moreover, children should learn to be kind and not become those who are allowed to do anything. Your son Maverick does not deserve to be treated like this by his stepmother and her children. He should organize a visit to a child psychologist. After all, after regular bullying, children are left with childhood traumas, and unfortunately, they remain for life. Now I want to tell a different story. My sister was planning to get married this year to a guy named Dominic. My sister now has a son, Jackson, who is 7 years old. Not long ago, he started going to school. His hobby is playing table tennis. My sister Eva had a husband before she met Dominic. Her ex, Grayson, now lives with his girlfriend. Not far from my sister's house. My sister and Grayson have a bit of a complicated relationship with each other. They broke up on a mutual decision, but one of them is still upset about it. Anyway, my sister's boyfriend, Dominic, is trying to get in touch with Jackson. I can't say he's doing a good job, but he's trying. This year, my sister bought a new car, so that made it very easy to solve some things. My sister and her husband had a special name for their son that only they used between them. They called him Big Top. My sister's son loved being called that. After all, his mother gave him this name as a sign of his love for sweet eclairs with cream. That week, Dominic and Eva would take their son to practice and then go to the store. That day, Grayson welcomed his son Jackson into his family. They were supposed to go to Grayson's mother's house for the weekend. They almost arrived at the meeting place to hand Jackson over to Grayson. My sister was sitting in the back seat, and her husband was driving them to the meeting. On the way, we stopped at a gas station, and my sister's son got an ice cream. When they got out of the car, Jackson went to his father. Dominic said, "See you next time, Big Top." Jackson gave him a surprised look because Dominic never said anything like that. It was a shock for Eva too. My nephew Jackson's father got a little angry that Dominic used that name for Jackson. They had a short fight, but nothing serious. When Eva and Dominic went to their favorite place, Eva told her boyfriend that calling her son the nickname Big Top was not a good idea. Dominic asked what was wrong with it, and Eva explained that it was a special name she and her husband used. It's something like their family paraphernalia. That's why you shouldn't pry into their old family affairs. It's not very nice. It was also unpleasant for everyone. If you want to be a new good father to Jackson, you have to come up with something else. Finally, you almost provoked Grayson into a conflict. Grayson stopped saying anything to you, only for the sake of his son, not to spoil the atmosphere. Dominic said, "You can't separate a name from someone. He also has the right to call me Jackson, the Big Top." Eva objected and said, "Don't ever say that to my son again." Dominic believes he has the right to say that. To be a good stepfather who cares about his son, my sister has a clear position on this matter. Eva tells her boyfriend Dominic, "You can be a good dad to Jackson, but without the old names. You should have something of your own. That will be special in this family." Because when Dominic calls her son the same name she used to call him with her ex-husband, it doesn't make her and her son Jackson feel good. Dominic can be cool if he doesn't take other people's ideas for himself. And when he calls Eva's son the nickname Big Top, this is a certain act of disrespect for the family traditions that exist between Eva's family of her husband Grayson and her son Jackson. In the end, my sister's boyfriend didn't want to hear another word about it. Dominic went outside to think about it. Eva realizes that her boyfriend means well, but this desire of Dominic's can ruin everything in the relationship. Wanting to do something for the better is not always a good idea. It would be a little weird for me if a guy I've known for a short time started calling me by my family name. It's a long-standing tradition in my family, and no one could say that name unless it was someone close to you. When Eva spoke to Jackson on the phone, her son was a little upset that Dominic had used his family name, and my wife's ex-husband was very angry that Eva allowed her boyfriend to call their boy a secret name. Eva and Grayson had a little fight about it because Grayson thinks that my sister is giving Dominic permission to call their son Big Top. The situation has come to a standstill. Serenity, I think the situation is very simple. Dominic just wants to become Jackson's new daddy, so he uses a dirty method to get this status. Perhaps Dominic just wants to show his dominance over Grayson, so he took away the name he used to call his son. In my opinion, if Dominic doesn't stop saying that, you should talk to him one last time, and then just leave him if it doesn't work. Because today, Dominic took away your son's personal nickname. Tomorrow he'll start saying that he's Jackson's real father, and that his dad Grayson is a fiction. Then Dominic will tell your son that Jackson should call him Dad. This breaks all personal boundaries. Autumn, your boyfriend wants to wishful thinking, and such actions will not lead to anything good. I once had a boyfriend who tried to keep me away from all the guys I knew. In front of other guys, he was always saying, "This is my girl," or "You are my girl." I broke up with him because he could say it 100 times a day. So your boyfriend Dominic is doing the same thing with your son. I've seen this a lot in my life. You have to stay away from guys like that. Your boyfriend Dominic is afraid of losing the competition for your son's love. He knows that Grayson is Jackson's real dad, and he is only his stepfather, and love has to be earned. If I were Jackson, I would have lost all respect for your boyfriend after hearing those words. Grayson will eventually ask you not to come over with your boyfriend who acts like a clown. Let him grow up and calm down. Next story. It was my husband's brother's birthday that week. Elias was turning 34 years old. He is a little younger than my husband Colton. For my husband's brother's birthday, I chose the gift for him. I knew that Elias was a bit of a principled man. He had a categorical attitude about gifts. He was not satisfied with anything, so choosing a gift for him was a challenge. My husband had gone on a business trip and was due to return on the day we celebrated his brother's birthday. I spent 3 weeks shopping for something to give Elias. It was not possible to give him money. Elias said it was a gift without love. I asked my husband what would be the best gift to give his brother. Colton said that his brother loves perfume. I was not able to find out what specific series of perfume Elias liked. In fact, no one in the family knew. It was kind of a secret. The last week before birthday, I spent it choosing the right perfume. I have 2 close friends who helped me decide. I was worried that Elias wouldn't appreciate it. The day of the celebration came. We came at lunchtime when everything was ready. The celebration was great. My husband Colton's mom and sister cooked really good. When everyone was giving Elias presents, he looked at them all at once. My husband's sister gave Elias a lighter that was all gold. It really impressed Elias a lot. Elias's parents gave him a poster of a Star Wars movie. Even though he is in his 30s, he was impressed. When it was my turn to give a gift, Elias opened the package and saw a small box. He started looking at it with great excitement. When Elias opened the box, his expression became sad. I didn't get his company right. Elias sprayed his hand once to smell the fragrance. His face wrinkled like my pug. It was immediately clear that my gift was the worst. I felt terribly uncomfortable. My husband's whole family saw Elias' reaction. I felt like falling underground when Elias spoke. "Well, it smells a little better than shit." It was one of the most expensive perfumes I've ever bought. I quickly went to the restroom to calm down and avoid that shame. My husband Colton went to his brother Elias and started talking to him. They started to argue because my husband wanted to defend me. In front of his family, Elias humiliated me with his reaction to the gift. Colton told his brother that he was acting like an ungrateful asshole. After all, I did my best for him, and he said the gift was little better than shit. At one point, the brothers almost fought. My husband's father and other men calmed them down, but the relationship between them is now at a critical level. I was in the restroom all the time, wiping my tears. Colton came to my restroom. He saw me sitting on the toilet, crying. He was very angry that his brother had acted like a bastard. Colton spent several minutes calming me down. We left the party without saying anything to the others. My husband's brother does not want to talk to us. My husband's parents are angry that we behaved so unrestrained and ruined the whole party. Only my husband's aunt said that we did the right thing when we left because Elias behaved like a bastard. My husband and I will never attend Elias's birthday party again. Sarah, what Elias did is so disgusting. After his reaction, no one should give him anything. I don't understand how Elias could behave in front of all his relatives at the party. If you don't like the gift, thank the person who gave it to you nicely and show respect. Why to make someone feel bad Or did Elias want to punish you for daring to give him something that was not to his taste? In any case, Elias is a very proud and ill-mannered man. Ariana, I'm so sorry that you tried to make people feel good, and Elias humiliated you like that. Elias thinks he has the right to humiliate other people's birthday gifts, perhaps a holiday in his honor, but it was organized to have a positive time and some bonuses for a certain person. But Elias thought he was a king. Who could say that other people's gifts for him, that they were total crap? Too bad your husband couldn't stuff Elias then. Cameron, why did Colton's parents, who heard that their son Elias started humiliating you, keep quiet? Elias's dad only acted when there was a near fight. Your husband is very smart if you wanted to protect you. But Elias' reaction was very stupid. You didn't do anything wrong to him for Elias to do this to you. I can only imagine how you must have felt. After that, I probably developed a phobia of giving things to people. After all, anyone can behave like an inadequate asshole like Elias. Allison, I could care less about Elias' reaction. I brought him a birthday present. Whether you like it or not is your problem. You put your heart and time into choosing that perfume. So let him shut his mouth, and thank you for not coming empty-handed. I always teach my children that you need to respect other people, especially when someone has shown you respect and love. However, Elias has not been taught these principles and behaves worse than a child. You probably should have consulted him about the perfume before giving it to him. Carson, I hope you have deleted Elias's number and will never deal with him again. I'm really curious if this is the first time he's acted like a selfish bastard or if this is the norm. If Elias is a man of principle, then he shouldn't expect everyone to think of something to give him. That would make Elias not be angry. Only people with internal problems do that. I will add a little to the end of the story. My husband Colton's family is still angry with us, even though 2 months have passed. We are still saying that we will not go to Elias' next birthday party. We will not invite him to our holidays either, and all the people who agree with Elias in his reaction. Elias' mom says that we are all family, so we have to live without quarrels. But I didn't give a damn about her words. After Elias practically spat in my face, in front of all the relatives, he doesn't have an apology. All future holidays in our family will be held without me and my husband if Elias is present. Putting up with Elias because he is my husband's brother is a very stupid idea. My next story. For a while I lived with my sister Gabriella. I had to move out because Gabriella got 2 dogs. They annoyed me terribly and ruined my things. One of the dogs slept on my dress while I was away from home, so the best thing to do was to leave. Now I live in my friend's house. Another reason to leave Gabriella's apartment was that Gabriella was constantly putting most of the housework on me. Because Gabriella goes to work, which takes a lot of time. And I'm graduating from college now, so I can clean the apartment myself. That week, my sister Gabriella called me. Gabriella was supposed to fly to her cousin on the other side of the country, so she had no one to leave her 2 big dogs with. Gabriella offered me to stay at her house and take care of the dogs. She even left me money and food for a week. It was a very nice offer, but I refused because I didn't want to be responsible for those dogs. They annoy me and spoil my things. Honestly, I would be happy if they were gone, so I firmly refused my sister's request. Gabriella can take the dogs to her nephew or our uncle. Why do I have to sit with those demons? Our uncle loves dogs. It would be a joy for him to sit with them. Gabriella said she didn't like her uncle playing with the dogs, so I am a good option. I told Gabriella that I had no desire to sit with her dogs. Gabriella was not going to give up. She even offered to buy me a ticket to a concert. But my hatred for her dogs was greater than my desire to go to the concert. Gabriella was very upset that I turned her down. She had no choice, so Gabriella took the dogs to her uncle's house. Of course, he was happy and thanked her for her trust. The next day, I had a missed call from my cousin. He said that Gabriella had called him. She was complaining about me. What a callous and proud girl I was. After all, Gabriella would have done anything for me, but I am a proud cow. My brother asked me to resolve this conflict with Gabriella and leave him out of it. In the afternoon, I got a call from my aunt. She was furious like a bull in an arena. She said that I was a very proud girl who didn't want to help the family. I started to defend myself against her stupid words. We just started arguing on the phone. My aunt said that I was very guilty before Gabriella. Now I have to ask my sister to forgive me because I was her only support in this situation. When Gabriella returned home from her trip, she didn't want to talk to me at all. One day later, Gabriella wrote to me. I could forget about her promise to go on vacation with her next summer. She would not finance a selfish person like me. I wasn't really surprised by her words, but it was still a bit hurtful. Gabriella was expecting me to help her, even though she knew I hated her dogs. Even if I agreed to stay in Gabriella's house, there was no guarantee that her dogs wouldn't ruin my things or my mood. I feel like I'm allergic to dogs after all these events. I don't think I am in the wrong in this situation. Gabriella put too much pressure on me. After all, I had personal plans for those days. I could not devote all my time to staying at home with Gabriella's dogs. Although Gabriella thinks that once I could have helped her out. After all, Gabriella has always tried to help me. Robert, you had such a global fight with Gabriella over the dogs. It's so ridiculous that it's not even funny. If you weren't comfortable sitting with her dogs, that's no problem. Even though you're close to Gabriella, it doesn't mean you have to do everything she asks. I don't think it was really a big deal to leave the dogs with your uncle, especially since your uncle likes those dogs, which means he will take care of them. It's much better than having you babysit them, because you can't stand those dogs. I don't think you took good care of them, let alone played with them. I know from my own experience how much animals need attention from people, so it's just a matter of pride for both of you. Alice, maybe Gabriella doesn't want to realize that you don't like her dogs. Gabriella thinks that you just don't want to help her, and that's the real reason for her. It's not your fault at all. You're under no obligation to Gabriella to sit her dogs. Suddenly, you're not being careful enough, and you might hurt the animals. Angel, are you sure that Gabriella doesn't want to take her dogs to her uncle for the reasons she mentioned? Maybe he is mistreating them, and that's why Gabriella begged you so much. But you only care about your own business. I feel very sorry for Gabriella because she has lost someone who could have helped her. You really owe her an apology. If anything happens to the dogs, it will be on your conscience. A story that really surprised me. We live in a very warm region of our country. 6 years ago, I bought a cub of a small limerick. This type of lemur does not grow very large, about a little over 1 foot. I have 3 children in my family, so it's easy to imagine how much I care about my animal. After all, children are children, and no matter what you say to them, they have a great desire to play with such an animal. My children knew very well the rules to follow. Thanks to this, there have never been any problems with the animal or people. As strange as it may seem, the limerick was intelligent. It did not go to strangers to be held, but only stayed close to them. People who come to my house for the first time are very surprised that such an animal lives in our house. It adds a certain uniqueness to our family. The children mostly play with the lemur outside because we have a small garden outside. My children often go with their friends to our garden to play. My wife and I have never minded this. The main thing is that children have fun and no one gets hurt. Not long ago, my children came to our house in a big group. Some of the children knew that we had a lemur, and for some, it was very cool news. My wife helped the kids set up a table and chairs so they could eat something. I don't feel bad about the kids eating food from my garden. That's why I let my children's friends come there. My son Adam is the oldest of the children. He is 11. He was the one who invited these children. There were about 7 children in our garden. When it was lunchtime, some of the children went to play in our small pool. At this time, my lemur was in one of the trees watching. Adam stayed with one of his friends. She often came to our house, so our lemur had trust in her and came down to my son. The children played with the lemur and everything was fine. One of the girls sitting at the table saw a lemur. She came up to my son Adam and his friend. The girl's name was Adeline. She wanted to play with the lemur. My son told her that the lemur does not go into the hands of people he does not know, so Adeline could only watch so as not to scare the animal. Adeline was a little upset because the lemur looked very beautiful and she wanted to play with it. Adeline reached out to my lemur, who was sitting on my son's shoulder. The lemur got scared and ran into the trees. Adam told his friend not to try to touch it. After that, the children went to play in the garden. At one point, Adeline saw a lemur sitting on the table, with its back to her. Adeline decided that now was the best time to pet the lemur. At least once, she had to do it. Adeline quietly crept over to the lemur and put her hand on its head. The lemur was very scared. It jumped up and started to climb on Adeline. She was very scared and started screaming like crazy. I looked out the window and could only see Adeline standing there crying, and the lemur running as fast as he could into the trees. I realized that Adeline was the first victim of my lemur. When I came to the children to find out the details of the incident, Adeline was no longer in my yard. She ran to her house. The children said that Adeline had climbed up to the lemur by herself and just scared it with her desire to pet it. 1 hour later, Adeline's father came to my yard, furious. Adeline's father began to ask who had harmed his daughter. Adeline couldn't calm down and just stood there crying. I took a quick look at the girl. There were no injuries on her. I thought the lemur might have scratched her. So when I saw that she was safe, I felt a little bit better. But her father started to get nervous and angry. She couldn't explain anything to her dad. I started to tell him what had happened. However, my words did not really solve the situation. Adeline's dad started yelling at me for not keeping an eye on his lemur, which was freely running around on other people's children's heads and hurting them. I told him that it was his child who was climbing on a lemur and wanted to hurt it, but he started threatening to kill my lemur. He said that he should be thrown out somewhere in the forest so that he would not hurt little girls. We argued with him for a very long time, until my wife came and together we drove the man and his daughter away. Of course, I apologized to them, but apologies were not enough for them. Adeline's father said we owed him a couple of hundred in moral compensation. After that incident, I didn't allow many children to come to my garden for a long time, and when children came, I took the lemur inside. I didn't want to let another such incident happen. Was my lemur to blame for this situation? I'm sometimes tickled pink at the behavior of some people. If you are told that you should not touch an animal, then you really should not touch it. I don't understand what Adeline's father was trying to do. Did he want some kind of compensation for his daughter breaking the rules of behavior with the lemur? He was very lucky that his daughter Adeline did not harm the animal. Otherwise, he would have paid the compensation. I love these parents who go to protect their children without understanding the situation. It doesn't matter to them that it was their child who caused the tragedy. If I were you, I wouldn't let my kids be in my yard at all. Haley, I understand that the girl was not old enough to understand everything that was happening, but it was not worth breaking the rules so easily. Adeline put herself in danger on her own. Your son clearly told her that the animal does not make contact with new people, but she didn't care about that. Adeline's goal was to pet the lemur at any cost. Now she will remember this event for the rest of her life. I'm really sorry about your lemur. It must have been very stressed by the encounter with the child. Adeline could have been more seriously injured, so she was very lucky. You should limit the number of times your children's friends come over. You don't know which of his friends will want to play with the animal.